All right, welcome everybody to another Insights Now webinar. Today we're going to be talking about game-winning patterns that we can identify within implicit and explicit data, and seeing how people react to different things gives us some really unique insights. And today we're going to be covering a few different patterns that are really helpful for you to look at, especially as you're doing innovations, marketing communications, product work in terms of development, design, communication. And it should be a really good, straightforward session. I think the patterns we're going to show here today are maybe for some people pretty obvious, but I think for a lot of people, what we've been seeing is that A, we need a reminder to look for the patterns, and B, we don't always go looking for them, and we don't necessarily, within implicit and explicit, understand why we're looking for certain patterns. So I hope that we'll get some new information into you today that will be helpful in your innovation process. As we go through today, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and answer them in that questions pane. I'm going to try and answer them in real time if I see them come in. If not, we'll answer and do a Q&A at the end as well. All right, now, most of us are trained to nudge people. If you think about what you learned in school, what you're maybe currently learning in school as well, most of what you're learning is how to look at the population as a whole and how to see patterns in that will help you nudge that big group along, or see common things that everybody's already doing. We really design research to find generalized patterns. A lot of our research designs that we're taught are really all about generalized patterns. We look for obvious patterns. What won? What lost? The first time we were testing a product that, when the new categories come about and you start testing products in those categories, you'll find that a lot of times those products don't do well. I remember when Red Bull hit the market, the whole energy drink category was taken off. I did a research study where Red Bull was part of the mix. It got a 4.3 or something really low. I don't remember the exact score, but it was a negative mean score on a liking scale. And you would have thought, wow, this product shouldn't be successful on the market if it gets such a terrible score. But context, understanding who are you really disrupting in this space versus who are you trying to nudge along, those are different questions, and traditional scale-based questions really don't get at some of those answers. And so we're really not trained to learn how to disrupt people. And we're rarely setting personalized context. That Red Bull example, what kind of setting was that? Oh, do you like this? Do you not like it? Well, what context was it in? Was it personally designed to be relevant for them in that context when they're answering? We use scales. Often those scales are we're just getting the mean scores from those scales, and we're just looking at general patterns cross market. Even when we do use implicit and explicit research designs, we're spending often most of our time looking at what was a strong high implicit score, which ones had better overall scores, and again, looking for patterns that align with nudging people along. That's our intuitive first stop. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we need to know, when are we nudging, when are we disrupting? And nudging and disrupting is really, really important in innovation, because if you're in a spot in your innovation process where you're a core brand, you're trying to get people to use your product more frequently, consider it more frequently, that's nudging behavior. However, if you're trying to disrupt space, get people to stop doing one activity, get them to do another, stop choosing one type of product, choose a different type of product, those are disruption mechanisms, and we've got to be looking at our data from the vantage point. If I'm looking to disrupt people, what can I put in here? What can I say about my product that will disrupt those people? So it's really important to understand nudge versus disrupt. All right, now that's sometimes in and of itself a tough concept for people. So I'm going to start somewhere that a lot of us are familiar with, just to get you into the mindset of seeing patterns. So let's think of overall liking scale. Classic 9-point liking scale, from dislike to extremely to like extremely. If you've got a couple of products and you have people, say a group of 200 people score those products, you get 2 products with similar scores, right? 6.33, 6.34, you would say both of those products are liked very, very similarly. And most of us stop there. Most of us look at those mean scores, say no significant difference between these products, and we're done. If you start looking for patterns, though, you might actually want to look at a distribution. And if I looked at the distribution of these two products, you'll notice that product one follows a pretty typical normal distribution, but product two is a little bit, just a little bit bimodal here. There's a group of people that are on the like very much, like extremely side, and there's another group of people that's more on the dislike side. So just looking at the top two box score here, product one, 15% of the people were like very much or like extremely. Product two, 35% like very much or like extremely. So while they get the same exact mean score overall, there is differences in the patterns themselves. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be looking at implicit and explicit data, and we're going to be starting to look deeper into some patterns within that implicit and explicit set. The implicit explicit test is essentially a calibrated, fast, direct response assessment. When you're looking for patterns in how people react to product, react to ways product are communicated, experiences they have with products, emotions they have about products, the implicit and explicit test is a really valuable technique. It basically calibrates people really quickly so that we understand and we can measure each individual person. Is that person reacting implicitly or explicitly? And then it's looking at a series of measures. And we'll take you through an example here to show that how that works. But overall, the key here is that we're using implicit and explicit in situations where we want to understand, are we more nudging people with this, or are we more disrupting people with this? So anytime your objective comes back to nudging and disrupting people, an implicit explicit test is going to be a valuable part of the mix of information that you want to gather in your research. So it starts with calibration, calibrates each person individually, then it goes into a priming step. Priming is super, super important to implicit and explicit tests. It brings to the surface all the things that you want people to be thinking about against a particular topic or occasion or moment. And then if you need to measure something that's super fast and fleeting, like an emotion, you do a projection exercise. Skip it if you don't need to, if you can actually be measuring in real time. And then finally, there's the assessment process where you're sequencing through a whole series of tasks to get people to do it. So individual calibrations, this is where we memorize a series, in this case, a set of numbers, and we have them then respond very quickly. Is this one of the things you've memorized? And this is measuring then the reaction time that a person has for something that we know should be top of mind because they just memorized it. All right, priming step. Priming is the most critical step because it does bring to surface the things that you're talking about. If we don't do priming, we don't know as a researcher how to interpret that information because we don't have any context for it. So priming prepares that brain to have the associations that we care about. And then finally, the assessment step. Assessment is very simple. They're going to cycle through keywords. So does this describe the product? They would click yes. If it was healthy, energizing, calming, it would just flash in front of them as they go through the assessment stage. Now, what does that give us? So it gives us a set of distributions. So it gives us a fast no score, a fast yes score, a slow no score, and a slow yes score based on how quickly people answered and then what direction, whether they clicked yes or no. That information and that distribution tells us what percent of the population has a different type of response. So in this case, for instance, 60% of the people had a fast implicit response. Okay, so it tells you how a percentage of the population will react. Now that information can then be transformed also to an overall score, just like a liking scale. You can get a mean score by giving values of 1 through 9 to each of the categories. Here we can give values or weights to each of the categories, and that can be transformed into a 0 to 100 point score. If you do that overall score, that gives you a measure of the entire population. So just like any other mean score, it allows you to set good benchmarks, allows you to monitor things over time, and it gives you a good assessment of the entire population. Now that 0 to 100 point score is also in implicit explicit. It's useful to understand what those patterns mean. So just like in a liking score, you know, if you get above a 5, it's generally liked. If you get below a 5, it's generally disliked. Here with an implicit explicit score, if it's above a 75, you know that the vast majority of people have a positive, implicit, fast positive response to that association. If it's 50 to 74, it's a generally positive connection. 25 to 49, generally negative, and less than 25, a strong implicit negative reaction. Okay. So this overall assessment is what we're going to be showing a bunch of patterns against today. So we're going to be looking especially at a drill down of the different breakouts of fast yes and fast no, slow yes, slow no scores. So we can look at different population effects. And we'll take a real quick, brief look at the whole population to set some context for ourselves. And if you're really interested in more of this information, want to see how this works within other neuromarketing elements, we do have a ebook white paper. It's on our website, or you can just put in the question or notes here that you'd like to receive a copy, and we'll get you one as well. All right, so let's put some context to this. Let's focus on a study that we did on toothpaste. So what we wanted to know were what attributes people would like to experience in their toothpaste. So we asked our category advisors panel, who we know buy and use toothpaste regularly, to react to different benefits and attributes of toothpaste. Priming, remember, is very important. We put them in the moment of an evening toothbrushing moment. So everybody in the survey was focused in on brushing their teeth, imagining they're putting themselves in that moment, and thinking about the benefits of toothpaste provides as part of your nightly oral hygiene routine. Then we gathered implicit, explicit reactions, right? Is this relevant to you when you're brushing your teeth at night? Does it freshen your breath? Does it taste refreshing? Is being organic, warming your mouth, fluoride free? This set of attributes, we had quite a large list here that we were cycling through. Some of these were characteristics that we were curious, they don't exist on the market today, like warms your mouth. Would those be good ideas? Some of these were things that we think might be important or we've heard expressed are important in qualitative work, like organic and sustainable packaging. Some of them are things that we should expect are actually what people want, like something that cleans your mouth or makes your breath fresh. Overall, if we look at the overall score, that 0 to 100 point score, you're going to see those things that you expect to see. You should expect to see like fresh breath, feels clean, tastes refreshing, long lasting. All these are getting scores above a 75. Those are good indicators that the population as a whole connects very well, intuitively, positively. These are things they expect from their toothpaste during that nightly routine. And things on the bottom end are just the opposite, right? They don't expect artificial, they don't expect detergents, they don't expect it to be spicy, they don't want that association to be there. So the overall score is really good because it helps us see patterns for the whole population. But it's not telling us how to nudge or disrupt people. It doesn't tell us which of these characteristics is, especially in the disruption space, which of these is going to be interesting or useful for us. It does give us some good information about nudge at the extreme high end and extreme low end, because we know those to get there, you have to be in a nudge situation. But it doesn't tell us how to disrupt. So let's look at a few patterns within this data. There's 3 patterns when we're looking at nudging behavior. If your goal is get people to use things more frequently, communicate about a product such that they're connected intuitively to that product, they see that word, that phrase on the shelf, and bam, that connects perfectly well with the moment when that matters to them. So there's going to be a skew positive distribution. There's going to be bimodal segments that are going to be valuable in understanding nudge behavior, and there's going to be skew negative situations. Let's take a look at each of those. So skew positive, these are the things that probably most of us are most familiar with. It's the things we typically look for in research, no matter what kind of scale you're using. This is where the vast majority of the people have a fast positive association. So here's really freshens breath. When you're thinking personally about your brushing your teeth at night and your oral hygiene routine, fresh breath is a key component you are fully expecting. It's an intuitive response. Yes, that's what I want. That's relevant to me when I'm brushing my teeth at night. My mouth feeling clean, the fact that it's tasting refreshing, the fact that it's going to be long lasting, all of those things are intuitive, positive responses. And I put the overall 100-point score on the right-hand side if you're curious what that number is. So you can see those are the ones that score high on the scale. Now, another pattern is bimodal. And now, just because it doesn't score really high on the overall score doesn't mean it's not valuable, because if it's bimodal, that just means that you can have a group of people who are really wanting it and a group of people who absolutely don't want it. So in this case, it was really interesting. So we added some sensory characteristics, tingling your mouth. Notice here, it's pretty much a split. Those people that are positive, they're mostly implicit positive. Those people that are negative, mostly implicit negative. So you see here that tingles your mouth could be a really important attribute to go after. However, it's going to only pertain to a subset of the population. So it may be something that is useful as potentially a line extension or something that could be added to your innovation process. Organic is another one. Organic, again, look, 46%, absolutely not relevant to me in a nightly routine. 36% implicitly positively connected, and not very many people in the slow response area here. So you see that when things are bimodal, they often end up in the middle, which you would expect in terms of a 100-point scale. But the value here is targetability of something that really already connects well just with a subset of the population. Now, skew negative, that's a great thing to look for. And a lot of people forget to look for the negative things, but negative things help us because they help us understand what to avoid. They help us not make mistakes. So in this case, things that make complete sense, like artificial. Nobody wants something artificial. They would much prefer something that is natural. So you have 73% of the people in this study said fast no to artificial. That indicates that the vast majority of them intuitively do not want that in their nightly toothbrushing routine and doesn't want that associated with their toothpaste. So that's easy to avoid. If we also look at other characteristics, like we thought maybe spicy would be a unique characteristic that really you don't see very often on the market, so maybe it would be something good to try. Notice that 79%, absolutely not. Very fast, intuitive reaction. They don't want something spicy in their mouth during a nightly toothbrushing routine. So certainly an opportunity to say, yep, don't want to go there because everybody says absolutely not, or a very large portion of the population says absolutely not. Okay, so let's look at then the other side. Now that's all about nudging, and notice that's all about the implicit scores. High values of implicit reaction, high percentage of the people having implicit reaction tells us how to nudge. If we're looking for disruption, we're actually looking for characteristics that slowed people down, that made people go, oh, wait a minute, maybe I want that, maybe I don't. So we're looking for characteristics, benefits, attributes here that have a high percentage of people who have a very slow reaction or a non-implicit reaction, realistically, is what we're talking about. So there's a positive disruptor. There will be disruptive segments, and there's going to be a negative disruptor. So let's take a look at each of these as well. Positive disruptors. This is where you've got at least 20% of your population that you're researching who has a slow but positive response. So this one, make your teeth feel smooth. I mean, think about that. 21% of the people, it caused them to pause and think, do I really want that? Yeah, actually, I think I do want that. Okay, now there was 64% who intuitively already knew that that's what they wanted, but there's a group of people, and 20% of your population is going to make a significant difference monetarily. 20% of the people weren't really sure. It was new, it was something that wasn't top of mind, something they weren't considering. So this then is a huge opportunity to go out with marketing, some communications, some brand associations, social media, focusing on this characteristic that, hey, this product can help make your teeth feel smooth. You're gonna get a big group of people who go, yeah, that's what I want because it's intuitive, but you're going to get this disrupted group who may not have considered your brand before going, wait, teeth feel smooth. Oh yeah, that is a good thing. Okay, I think I'll go for this particular toothpaste this time. So you get the product into their consideration set, start disrupting their how they make decisions and get them to choose something different. So a wonderful example of becoming differentiated on the market by looking for these patterns, 20% or more. Now, disrupted segments. Disrupted segments, what we're looking for here is the overall percentage of people who have a slow response. So combine the slow no and the slow yes. Basically, we're looking for those scenarios where there's essentially a flat distribution or a really highly skewed to slow distribution. And two good examples here is recyclability. Sustainability is a tough topic today. And if I ask people if having a recyclable tube or cap on their toothpaste is important to them during their nightly brushing routine, 49% of the people, just asking them that disrupted them. It made them go, I'm not really considering that. And then notice in this case, slightly positive skew, right? Versus a slightly negative skew. So this is a good opportunity to say, okay, there is a group of people out there. This would be highly disrupted. 30% of the people who, brush their teeth at night are going to go, oh, I didn't really think about that. And then they're going to say, yeah, I think that's a good thing. So you're going to disrupt their consideration set by focusing on recyclability. Fluoride free is another good example. Fluoride free, just a little less, 40% of the people, and pretty evenly split, right? 22% no, 18% yes. The challenge here when you see these big slow responses is that sometimes when we drill down into these conversations with people about why that disrupted them, you find out that they don't really understand a particular item. So like fluoride free, well, wait a minute, is fluoride free sounds good, but isn't fluoride good for my teeth? But do I need fluoride? I'm not really sure. And so some people say no, some people say yes. It takes them a while to figure it out because they don't really know or they don't have the information they need. So a lot of times when we see this really even split like this in the middle with a pretty big disrupted group of people, it's because they haven't actually seen much conversation or topic around this. So you might be able, with a good communication and learning plan, to be able to educate the market and bring them to a new form of understanding and start shifting some behavior. But either way, it does indicate when you have this high percentage, 40% of the people being disrupted, it indicates that there's an opportunity there. The question is whether that's useful for your brand and your innovation process or your communication process, whether that's as good of an opportunity as something else that you might have facing you. Right, now the final one is the negative disruptors. Negative disruptors is the opposite of the positive, where you're looking for that 20% or more, but they're in the slow no category. So this is a group of people who were disrupted, but then when they considered it, they were like, nah, I don't think so. Here was our wonderful example of, we're like, look, all toothpaste cool your mouth. Why couldn't there be one that's warm and comforting? Wouldn't that be great at night? A nice warm, comforting sensation in your mouth before you go to bed? Well, the answer is no. It does disrupt a bunch of people, but as they consider it, they go, yeah, no, I don't think I would want that. And this would help then avoid costly mistakes of going after an innovation idea that maybe the group of people, maybe us as researchers, were like, this is a really cool idea. But now we have the data to say, yeah, it is disruptive, but not in a good way. So looking for these patterns, these 3 key game-winning patterns in disruption are really going to help you understand where your opportunities are. Remember, we've got 3 for nudging, right? Skew positive, skew negative, and bimodal. And we've got 3 for disrupting, positive disruptors, negative disruptors, and those disrupted segments as well. When you take all of these into account, you're going to find that winning at innovation, you can leverage behavior and you can leverage the implicit, explicit test and nudge and disrupt to improve your ability to win in your innovation process, because it's all about getting people's behavior well understood and understanding where there's opportunities to nudge and where there's opportunities to disrupt. So first and foremost, it's going to identify great opportunities to nudge current behavior along. Finding those things that are implicitly positively connected are going to really nudge people in their current behavior. You're going to identify those attributes to avoid, just like warming toothpaste at night. Just not a good scenario. I thought it was a cool idea personally, but we know based on the research there that that is definitely something to avoid. So good opportunity to find things that you can avoid, which also improves your speed to market because you're not wasting your time going after things that actually aren't going to be successful at the end of the day anyway. And then it really does help you uncover opportunities to disrupt people and create great consideration for your products. Being able to go out and say organic, you know that's got to be a targetable initiative for you to do because that's positive, but disruptor, but for a certain group of people. All right. So let's talk about what ways that you think you could be using implicit and explicit. What kind of questions do you have for me at this point? All right, I'm going to start opening my questions here and see what we got. All right. First one, let's see. For disruption, does it make a difference if 20% is slow yes and greater than 50% is fast no? Well, it does make a difference. So if you're 20+% in that slow yes, but you also have a very big fast no side, that means you have segments. And a group of people it's not going to pertain to them at all. So organic, I think, was the one I go back to, but is a good example where there's a pretty good group of people that basically just ignore organic when they see it on the package or communication because it's irrelevant to them. So but if you have a group of people that are in that slow yes, they're going, oh, organic, never really thought about that with toothpaste before. Yeah, actually, I kind of would like that. That's the group of people then that you can target and get good innovation traction with. What understanding these patterns allows you to do is understand how big your target market is really going to be, right? So if you have a big chunk of people who are in the negative, your likelihood of winning them over is very, very low. They're going to still continue to avoid those things. So it's understanding, is that a big enough opportunity? Is 20% of the people I'm targeting in this research, is that 20%? Is that a big enough chunk of people that I can make good money with this innovation? If yes, that's a great opportunity. If you go, no, actually it's kind of small, it's not really going to get me to my ROIs, then that would be something you would say, okay, good for some people, but not for our brand. All right. Do we have validation of identified wins that are successful in market? That is a great question. Most of the work that we're doing right now is because we've been doing this now for a few years. We have a few. I would have to get some permission to express a few. We did talk. We had a meeting here, webinar was 3 months ago from Tofurky on some packaging work that we did. We definitely have done a lot of implicit where the emotional component pieces are successful. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one. That's a really good question. Haven't had that one before, but we have definitely got a number of really good ones. I'll just have to figure out which ones we could talk about, because most of the research that Insights Now does, as you can imagine, is, you know, for innovation products, is pretty far up front and kind of confidential. So that's a challenging one. But we definitely, I can tell you from personal experience, yes, there's plenty on the market that are quite successful. As with all innovations, you know, it's about combining, making sure you get that harmony between the communication and the product delivery. And one of the things that we see with the implicit research is that it's fantastic, easy way to talk to the agency side, because often the agency side comes at it from a super creative standpoint. So if you can show them, hey, here's the communication elements that implicitly connect with people, and then here's some ones that are more disruptive, they can incorporate that into their creative, and then the message and the product delivery mesh much, much better. And that's why the implicit helps you really look at the market space success as well. So I'll give you that hint and clue as to where it goes. Okay. Other ones, other requests, plenty of requests for papers. That's great. Yeah, if anybody else wants one of the research papers, just shoot us a note. You can drop it in the questions, or you can follow up. It is on our website. You can go and find it in our Innovation Center on our website as well. Okay, any other questions? Again, there's a couple others, but I think I've got most of these answered. Have you done this with marketing material? Yes, we do this with concepts, with idea screening, with marketing materials, especially marketing snippets. We've done this a little bit with images, depends on how we break it up. Remember that implicit, in order to get good data with implicit, you need something that people can react to very, very quickly. You're looking for that instant reaction. So if you have like big, long paragraphs to read, then we have to break that up into all of its component pieces in order to get good understanding of what's working, what's not working. So with marketing material, yes. However, just be mindful that you have to break up all the pieces. Okay. Let's see. For example, you were talking about good follow-up. So for example, if we would have primed people with something like a concept about a warming toothpaste, might we have gotten a different response? 100% yes, and that is spot on. So if you have a known area that you're targeting that you think could be super disruptive, like a warming toothpaste, yeah, you prime differently, you will definitely get different responses. And in this case, we were trying to get at what do people think about without with them just thinking about their current toothpaste regime. So we're looking for potential disruptors. However, if you are already at that part in your process where you've got a concept, you use the concept as your prime, and then you do all your reactions off of that. And then you would see, hey, if people were aware of this product, then what would happen? So in that particular case, what you're saying is, I'm going to set the context of my team can create the awareness. And once person has the awareness, this is the probability that they would fall into either a disruptive, this would be disruptive for them, or this would be something you know, positive for them or negative for them. It's a really good question. All right. Anybody else with questions? I think I've answered them all. I don't see any others that I haven't answered at this point. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you all for coming. I do want to point out that our next webinar series, we're kicking off a webinar series actually on diversity and inclusivity. And we're kicking this off in August with a panel discussion. And but we're going to be doing a lot on diversity and inclusivity as we go over the years. One of our team members, Kate Hamilton, is one of the key people on our team that's going to be working on this. So if you're interested, if diversity and inclusivity is something that's important to you in your research process, or you know somebody in your company that diversity and inclusivity is a key part of what they're trying to accomplish, or some of the challenges, especially if you have challenges, We would love to chat with you and talk with you and get more information on you, because there's a lot of great industry stuff going on right now with diversity and inclusivity. And so if you can either drop us an email to Kate, or use a contact us form on our website. You can even contact me and I'll direct you around as well. But we would really appreciate it if anybody's working in this particular area to connect, because lots of great minds make for great industry solutions. All right, thank you very much for your time today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you soon.